welcome on my next guest of the show. This man is coming off a very impressive win at UFC Fight Night, Garbrandt versus Almeida against Jorge Masvidal, and that is Lorenz Larkin. Lorenz, first of all, my friend, it's good to have you on the show. What's been going on? I believe you're enjoying some good weather in California.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot. It's really hot. It's been like yesterday it was like 115. Today it's like 112. Hopefully it gets in the 90s tomorrow. Hopefully. We'll see.
We can swap anytime, mate. As I said that to you all fair there a minute ago. First of all, mate, I want to get your thoughts. Obviously, you being a welterweight, the fight last weekend, I don't know if you caught it, Rory MacDonald versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. What were your thoughts on that fight at the weekend?
You know what? It's kind of what I thought. I felt like either Rory was going to adapt to his style, Wonderboy style, or he was just going to get frustrated and just and kind of just break mentally, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what happened, man. He just couldn't catch up, he couldn't catch his timing, and he just looked frustrated out there. It's not like he got dismantled, but he had nothing for Thompson.
Do you think that's enough now for, obviously we've a world title fight coming up pretty soon, UFC 202 between Robbie Lawler and Tyron Woodley? Do you think that's enough to get Stephen a title shot?
Yeah, I mean, now that Woodley's fighting for the title, yeah, I feel like he deserves a title shot. He beat Hendricks. He beat the two top guys, Hendricks and Rory, so it's he deserves it. I'm happy for him.
Definitely. Let's get back to you. Obviously a big win against Jorge Masvidal. I want you to just talk about that performance, assess it. There was an eye poke in there. I think a lot of people, overshadowed and played on the eye poke a bit too much. Were you a little bit frustrated with that element that was talked about a little bit?
It sucked because it was my first eye poke, ever. It was just a big accident. It's not something that I don't have to hide it. All you got to do is watch it. I got my legs kicked underneath, kicked from underneath me, and I reached out to get some balance, and I poked them, But I apologize, and I meant it, and I'm glad that he was able to, recover from it and fight through it, and everything it turned out good.
I think it's just one of those things that happens. I watched it back earlier today. Obviously, it was a complete accident, but the performance in general was very good. How impressed with you? How happy were you with the performance that you put in? On that fight.
I was very happy. I got to try a lot of things that I've been working on for a long time, but never got to really try or just do in a fight. That my coach has been working with me on. So. It was an all around good fight. I didn't really have any complaints about it.
Why is that you didn't get to try the things, was just not in the right situation in the right fight, or is everything? Do you feel it's a work in progress, that everything's coming together as you get older and you mature as a fighter?
Yeah, I think it's just me maturing as a fighter and seeing things as I'm fighting and willing to go out there and try them. You know what I mean? It's hard to try something that you haven't been used to your whole life, So, but in training, I do these things all the time. I work my wrestling all the time, and I'm subbing guys, and I'm playing off my back and things like that. But when it comes to fight time, it's totally different. You have somebody on top of you trying to knock you out, so you tend to not go for it. So but these are things that are still coming to me, and that's why I find that I'm content with myself. I find myself as I'm not even as dangerous as I can be, because I'm not even using all the tools that I've been training for.
I was going to mention that you obviously don't feel as though you're prime yet, and I think it's been evident, since your drop down to welterweight as well. You've gone 3-1 in your last 4 fights. Do you feel as though we're yet to see Lorenz Larkin at his prime?
Yeah, I feel like I haven't even hit my prime yet. I'm still just learning as a fighter. I'm getting the more fights that I have, the more calm I'm getting out there, you know what I mean? The more comfortable I'm getting out there, which only allows me to do more things, in the cage. So, it's just a work in progress, and I'm just happy. As long as I keep going, I'm happy.
Do you feel calmer as in relation to going out and put everything together, that you know you've done your work and training, or is a mindset in relation to one-on-one combat?
I would say both. Just in the fight, I feel myself being more calm, and just going through the whole process. I'm getting used to. I feel like that's where it breaks a lot of guys. You know what I mean? Like, especially like guys that are just getting into the big show. Everybody talks about the fight, but I talk about the things before the fight that kind of get to people, and give people those UFC jitters. The interviews, the cameras in your face. You know what I mean? The big production. And all those things you have to do in the week of the fight, your little photo shoots and things like that, your video, interview. It's just all that type of stuff, man. To me, for a first time guy in the UFC, those are the jitters. Yeah. Coming out and fighting in front of a big sold out crowd, those are jitters. Then on top of it, you got a guy that's your same built, standing across the cage from you, trying to kill you. You know what I mean? So these are all things that you have to factor in, but, in a weird way, I'm getting used to it. And, just is becoming one of those, just another day type things.
That's good. That's good, man. Good to hear. It's obviously shown in your performances, definitely since you dropped down to welterweight. You mentioned after the fight against Masvidal as well, your takedown and your wrestling. Obviously an area you've been working hard on. You're obviously very happy with that as well. What has been the process for you to make that step to the next level? Have you been working with different guys? Have you gone outside your normal camp? What have you done there?
Just working with my camp, man. And we just keep working on all my technique and just keep applying it, in these fights, and showing these guys that, I'm not just your striker, I have wrestling and I have jiu-jitsu, so, just keep applying it, and, then all of a sudden, you might be seeing me subbing people too. Who knows?
Do you feel the power translates better at welterweight than it did at middleweight, or what's your assessment on that from dropping down in weight classes?
Yeah, I feel like if I'm not the same size as the guy, I'm bigger than the guy. You know what I mean? And at 85 and 205, I didn't feel that way.
Does that give you a mental advantage as well?
What was that?
Does that give you a mental advantage, do you feel, as well?
Let's say it one more time.
Does that give you a psychological advantage as well, possibly?
Yeah, because, when I fought at 85 and 205, at weigh-ins, I felt like, we're kind of the same size. The guy might have been a little taller, but I was like, oh, he's not that big. But, the day after, I was like, geez, these guys are packing on all this weight back on, and I'm not packing on that much. So, I feel like the big guy or I'm just the same size as my opponent now at welterweight, and it feels good. A guy might be a little bit taller than me, but, we're the same build.
How's this going to work for you now? Obviously, you're a guy that used to fight as middleweight, as we all know, and now you're down at welterweight. The new fight week weight restrictions, is there anything you have to do differently in the build-up to fight camp now? Obviously, you haven't experienced that yet, but going forward, it's something you're going to have your eye on. Are there any adjustments you're going to have to make?
As fighting at welterweight?
Yeah, obviously with the the fight week weight restrictions going into fight week.
Oh, I was already doing that, before I was even, before it was even a big deal, you know. And I never use IVs. I got a needle like phobia. So when I
that
got to go
helps.
get blood, you know, it takes a while for me to even calm down enough for them to even poke me. So, you know, I've never in my life done an IV. So I never had to deal. That didn't bother me when they made the IV ban, and being, I think it was what, 15 pounds. I think it was like 15 or like
Yeah.
14 pounds you have to be.
Going into
That didn't
fight.
bother me either because I came into the fight, you know, I'll come in like 14 pounds out, 15 pounds out. So
Never a problem.
it was right up my alley.
No, definitely, man. Talking of opponents, you know, when are you ready to get back in there? Obviously, you've had a fight a few weeks ago. You've taken a bit of time off. You're going to take a little bit more time off. Has there been any word from Joe Silva? What's the next step for you as for an opponent?
You know, I haven't heard nothing yet. You know, as long as, you know, I'm always game for whatever they put my way. You know, and you know, I mean, as long as they give me a camp, you know, I'm ready. You know, so just waiting on their words. I can, you know, I'm already in the gym, so you know, so I can put it in the high gear and get after it.
Yeah. Is there anyone you're looking at, anyone that, you know, a fight that might excite you down the line? I know you're a guy who doesn't, you don't call out guys, but is there a fight you potentially like to see? Is there someone maybe, you know, at welterweight, maybe a few of your fights in the past at middleweight, you know, you got smothered a little bit in the ground, maybe something like Gunny Nelson, someone along those lines? Would that be a fight might interest you?
Yeah, man. You know, I'm all about exciting fights. So any guys that are out there, you know, that are putting on some exciting performances, that's what I want to be a part of, you know. And those are the fights that I want, you know, UFC to make happen. You know, I mean, that's just what I want. You know what I mean? It's not me what I get, but those are the fights that really intrigue me, that really push me in camp to perform, you know, at my fullest potential. Are the ones that the guys come to bring it. You know what I mean? Because I'm doing the same.
Yeah, 100%. We look at the division as a whole, you know, the perception division, and a lot of the champions at the moment. I've mentioned this to a few guys. I was speaking to Stephen Thompson last week before his fight as well, and you know, with the likes of Conor McGregor, Stipe Miocic, a lot of guys who have a lot of movement in their game. You're the same in your stand-up as well. You know, how important is that? Do you feel that we're sort of coming into a new era of mixed martial arts where a lot of the guys winning the fights are, you know, are stand-up guys that tend to keep their distance well, and they tend to move very well on the front foot as well?
Yeah, you know, I feel like it's only a matter of time. You know, this sport is still kind of new, and you know, it's just evolving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
You know, give it 6 years from now, you know, you're gonna start seeing all the young kids that were training. You know what I mean? That started when they were like 8 years old doing MMA. You know what I mean? You're gonna start seeing those guys in the UFC. So it's just evolving, and it's just not your simple 1, 2, 3 anymore. You know, now guys are learning footwork, and these wrestlers are kind of getting away from wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and it's paying off for them. You know, they're more exciting, and they move better and things like that. So you know, it's just evolving, and guys are starting to pick up on it.
Do you think there's an overemphasis on the movement side of it, or do you think it's something that's, you know, generally should be looked at a little bit more carefully and in more detail? Because we've seen guys, you know, sort of shoot to the next level with some really good movement. Is it crucial that guys take this on board, you know, when training and in fight camps?
As far as movement,
Yeah,
you know, it's one of those things where if you don't adapt, man, it's you'll just be a memory. You know, you'll get passed up in the sport. You know, this is a sport where if you were to look at fights a year ago, a whole fight card, and how guys were fighting a year ago, and then you fast forward a year, it's gonna be it's gonna be a total different style.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean? It's just guys are gonna be throwing way different stuff out there. You know, everything is gonna be a lot different.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's been evident in some of the performances from some of the title contenders this year. You know, they've adopted a whole different skill set to their repertoire, and you know, especially fighting off the back foot as well has been one of them in numerous title fights we've seen lately. I just want to get your thoughts on, you know, there's been rumors of potential takeover in the UFC. You know, it's rumored at the moment the UFC have denied it today. Is that unsettling for a fighter from your point of view, that there might be new owners and you don't know where you're going, or you don't know the direction the company's gone?
I don't know. You know, it's kind of mixed up. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, I can't do anything on that side. You know, so
is it something you think about though? Is it something that would be on your mind?
Yeah, you know, but I always look at it like, you know, I feel like I earned my keep, you know, and I've made a name for myself. You know what I mean? And I'm in the company already, so I don't know. It's just one of those things where you kind of just wait to see what's going on. Kind of like the Reebok thing, you know. It's just like, oh, it can't do anything. You just gotta wait and see.
And we know how that worked.
What's gonna unfold.
Not a lot of happy people with the Reebok deal. Do you think it could be a good thing for mixed martial arts in the UFC if there was new owners on board?
Maybe, you know, it just depends on the owners, you know, and if they're big time people, you know, coming from, you know, big money, you know, it's only good things maybe for the sport, you know. Maybe it's gonna be more marketable. I don't know.
More money,
you know,
for the fighters. I think is one of the big issues. Obviously, Jojo Calderwood mentioned after her fight last Saturday that she's going to have to go back to work after not getting the bonus. So that's obviously something I think everyone in the sport agrees that the fighters should be definitely earning more money.
Yeah, you know, that sucks.
Definitely.
That's never good. Definitely. You know, especially when you're fighting in the biggest MMA organization in the world.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, man. I think the guys, everyone across the board, nearly, bar the one or two guys at the top, need to be paid more money. I think everyone understands that's the amount of work you guys put in your, you know, just every day of the week, and to entertain the fans in the way that you guys do. I just want to ask you one more before I let you out of here. I do appreciate the time. Big world title fight coming up in a few weeks' time. Robbie Lawler versus Tyron Woodley. How do you see that playing out, being a welterweight fighter?
Man, you know, I've been pulling for Robbie, man. So I'm gonna have to go with Robbie on this one. But it just, I don't know, man. To me, the biggest thing about Robbie is he's a grit fighter. You know, like he always pulls from deep, and when a lot of guys can't. You know what I mean? And that was the whole thing with him and Rory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rory, you know, I became a big Rory fan after that fight, you know. But, you know, but Lawler just pulled a little bit more, you know, grit out of, and that's what it boils down to, you know, after technique shuts itself out and endurance shuts itself out, and then it's just off of heart, you know.
Definitely, it's one to look forward to. Huge fight.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see. We'll see where Woodley's is. You know.
Yeah, if we fight like anything we had last summer, it's going to be one to definitely look forward to at UFC 196 last summer between Robbie Lawler and Rory MacDonald. One of the fights, you know, the century in my opinion. Lorenz, it's been a real pleasure to have you on the show. I do appreciate the time. So, what's your timeline to get back in there? When would you ideally like to be back in the octagon, my friend?
Not too sure, man. Maybe late August. Yeah, you know, I'm thinking maybe late August. That wouldn't be bad.
UFC 202 is coming up. Would you like to be on that card?
When is that?
Or I think Connor, and I think it's August. Yeah, I think 17th of August. UFC 202.
Oh, okay.
I think it's around about then. It is. Yeah, 20th of August.
Yeah, it's in Vegas, right?
202 in Vegas, yeah, only around the corner from you.
Oh, okay.
Diaz
Yeah,
McGregor too, and some Irish fans thrown in there as well.
yeah. Yeah, I fought on this card before, and I was out there for one time for his other card. They're cool, man. They're crazy.
Yeah, we're a crazy bunch. You should see us at the moment with
Yeah,
the European Championships on as well. The soccer back here at home, the country goes mad, and it'll be going mad again tomorrow night when
yeah.
we play Italy.
A lot of a lot of Jameson.
A lot of Jameson, a lot of Guinness. That's us. That's us Irish.
Yeah.
Lorenz, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I do appreciate the time of the show. The guys can find you on social networks at _monsoon.
Hello?
That's correct, isn't it?
Okay. Yes.
Lorenz, real pleasure to have you on the show. Do appreciate the time, my friend.
All right. Take care, man.